Welcome back into hour number 3 of the Morning Rush. Want to go to the phone lines and welcome in one of the newest members of the Arkansas Sports Hall of Honor. You know him well. It's Darren McFadden. Darren, thanks so much for making some time for us, man.
I definitely appreciate you guys having me on, man. It's a great honor to be going into the Hall of Honor this year.
Darren, we'll start there. How'd you find out about the news, man?
Actually, Mr. Urich called me. He was just telling me he wanted to call out inductees personally and, just welcome everybody into the Hall of Honor. So it was great to be able to have a conversation with him and going into the Hall of Honor and just have them be able to give you a phone call. It was definitely great.
You're in the College Football Hall of Fame, Doak Walker Award winner twice, Maxwell Award winner. How do you measure this, man?
I did an interview last week, and people they asked me the same thing. I tell them being an Arkansas kid, growing up in Arkansas, and bleeding Razorback red, man, that's one of those you got to put right up there at the top. A lot of people may not look at it that way because when you look at the College Hall of Fame, Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame, but just being able to go into the Hall of Honor at the university, man. Like I say, growing up, want to be there my whole life. Just being able to get into that Hall of Honor is great.
Yeah. The last time you were with us, you expressed a desire to find a piece of the program you could be a part of, whether it was coaching, whether it was somehow being a part of this football program. A, do you still want to do that? And B, has there been any talks? Anyone reached out to you? Any news on that front?
Like I said, I believe Razorback red through and through, man. So if I can do something with the university, I definitely would love that. But as far as right now, I haven't got a chance to reach out to anybody and talk with anyone. Ever since Coach Pittman has been on board, we've been had this corona pandemic going on. So it's been kind of tough to even, get around and talk with folks right now. But I think coaching may be a little above my head, man. I put those hours in so long playing football, and I have 2 young kids at home right now. And, I missed a lot with my older boys growing up from being on the road and traveling a lot. So, I think but to be able to come around and be able to do something where I'm just around the program and help out with the guys and pass along some of my knowledge, I would love to be able to do that.
What's summer been like for you? I think for all of us, it's been crazy having the kids at home, COVID, all this stuff going on. What's your world been like in this strange world we've lived in?
It's definitely been like that right there. Just at home with the kids right now. We finally got to the point we started trying to go to the parks a little bit and hang out with the kids, but for the most part, it's just been around the house and, just trying to keep everybody safe.
You're still hanging out in Dallas most of the time, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Darren McFadden with us on the Morning Rush. Darren, have you passed along the legacy, the family genes, your kids playing ball, man?
I have a couple of them that want to play. I don't think they've taken to it as much as I did when I was a younger kid, but, a couple of them they're definitely interested in, and I want to see how that turns out with them coming up here in the near future.
We had you on about 3 months ago, and you talked about how your dad told you to punish the tackler. What kind of father-coach dynamic are you going to play when your kids, you think your boys eventually potentially play football, man?
Things have changed so much about the game, and we've learned a lot of knowledge as far as with head injuries and different things in the game, so I'm only going to push them as much as they want to be pushed. I don't want to push them to the point where they don't want to be out there playing and things, but I'm not going to be the parent that's up in the bleachers going crazy, yelling up and down. I more so probably pull them to the side and talk to them when I get a chance to about whatever's going on the field. But, I definitely want to be one of those parents that keep a hand on them when they're out there playing and, just trying to make sure they're safe when they're on the field and make sure they're using the proper techniques and everything.
Darren McFadden with us here on the Morning Rush. The last time you were with us, we talked a lot about your college career and your Heisman hopes and the championship run to the Western Division title, those things. I want to ask you about your NFL career because what was life like for you when you arrived with the Raiders and you started your NFL journey? And what do you see going on in this league this year with coronavirus?
I tell everybody my NFL career was kind of like a roller coaster, man. When I was doing good, I did great out there. Fortunately, I had a lot of injuries that I dealt with early on in my career. And, some of those kind of plagued me throughout my career. But, it was a great experience playing in the NFL, man. I loved it. I won't change anything in the world if I had to do over. And like I said, I loved it with all my heart. It's going to be an interesting season to see how it's going to go this year. I see how the NBA is doing the virtual fans and things. And, I think that'll be a completely different thing for the NFL to do. And I'm very excited to see how they're going to play it out. And I don't believe we're not going to have football this year. I feel like we're going to play some type of way, whether it's with fans or without fans. But it's just going to be very interesting to see.
Did you grow up a Cowboys fan? I mean, it seems like virtually everyone in Arkansas was, for the most part, a Cowboys fan growing up. Was that part of your childhood?
Definitely grew up a Cowboys fan, man, and also was a big Broncos fan and a Pittsburgh fan. I like Terrell Davis, Jerome Bettis, John Elway, Cordell Stewart, Hines Ward. I like watching a lot of those guys play ball, man. So, it kind of just drew me to them, and I ended up being kind of fans of some teams that people wouldn't think you'd be a fan of coming out of Arkansas.
Tell us the story on how it came about, you joining the Cowboys and you becoming part of their team. Was that something you and your team sought out, or did Jerry come after you? Tell us how all that went down years ago.
I think it was kind of a mutual thing for us. Going into the off season, I was going to be a free agent, so my agent, we talked about it a little bit when it got closer to that time, and he reached out to the Joneses, and they were more than happy to have me on board. I was more than happy to come on board, and so it was one of those deals that just ended up being a mutual thing for us, and it all worked out great. I feel like, like I said, I had a good season there, rushed for 1,000 yards my first year there, and then back to the injury bug thing again. And so it was hard for me with the ups and downs, but I just always try to stay positive, stay focused, and just tell myself I know as long as I'm healthy, I can still be one of the best backs out here in the league.
What's the best thing about working for Jerry Jones?
I just have to say, man, just having that Arkansas connection, man, and just anytime you see a guy like Jerry, you're like, man, there's the Arkansas guy right there, man. Just to be in the shoes that he's in, man. And, it was great working for him. I know everybody has their own opinions of how they feel like he handles his team and everything, but I didn't have any complaints while I was there the whole time. I enjoyed being there for him and definitely love to play for him.
Is there a team in particular that you like to win the Super Bowl this upcoming season?
I don't just have one team that I think that's going to go out there and win the Super Bowl. Like you say, that's a lot of teams out there that have heck of a team that they've put together over the offseason, over the years leading up until this year. And to a lot of people, I definitely wouldn't sleep on Dallas at all. I think they're going to have a great core group of guys that are going to go out there and play ball. And say the way that Kansas City team playing with Patrick Mahomes behind the center, man, that's a tough one to beat. And then you look at a team like Tampa and what they've done down there and putting all those guys together. I think they'll definitely be one of those ones that's going to be right up there and contend.
Darren, you bring up the Cowboys. I drafted Dak Prescott during my fantasy football draft this past weekend. Do you play fantasy football at all? Is that appeal to you?
Me coming into the league, I think fantasy football put a bad taste in my mouth because I was running to a lot of fans, and they were like, man, I had you on my fantasy. You got hurt again. And it just it put a bad taste in my mouth early on. I never got into fantasy football, and so it's something I've never played a fantasy football season.
Do you ever go back and watch highlights? I know some athletes do. They live back in the old days. Some don't. How often do you watch old games or old highlights of yourself, man?
I can't say that I just go back and intentionally watch them very often, but the times that I do see them, and I sit back and be able to reminisce about them, like, man, those were some heck of a days. You'll run across some old games that come on, or maybe somebody will post something on Twitter or something, and you'll see some highlights. And but anytime I get to watch them, I definitely, when it comes on, I sit there and watch the whole show, watch the whole highlight out. And, it's always just a joy to be able to see it. And it's like, man, you have some running legs on you.
Darren McFadden here with us on the Morning Rush. Tommy and I were debating this the other day, and it was a really fun debate that a lot of listeners got into. Your team, you, Felix, Peyton, and company in 2006 versus the 2010 team with Ryan, Joe, Greg, Jarius, Darren. I think I know the answer you're going to go with on this one, but if you're
definitely so.
What do you expect me to say?
Why do you think you guys would be able to pull out as the 2006 team against that 2010 squad, man?
I have nothing but respect for that team and what they did with Petrino and Mallett and those guys there, man. They had a heck of a team and they played some heck of a ball. But I feel like a lot of people talk about our offense from the 2006 season, but our defense was our backbone that year. Our defense, those guys that we had on defense, our front seven and our DBs, man, that was our backbone right there. They actually kept us in a lot of games. And, when we had to make plays on offense, we made plays for them. And I just feel like that's one of the most physical defenses I've been around as a player. And if anybody want to argue me with it, and we can definitely have that debate, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at Jamal Anderson, another guy from your hometown in that same area, played wide receiver, but those long arms and that big range he had, he was just able to snatch guys up from that DN spot.
Definitely. Defensive line, we had like Marcus Harrison, Keith Jackson up there.
Yeah.
A guy like Jamal Anderson, Sam Adebutu at the linebacker position, man. We had a heck of a solid defense, and like I say, those guys were physical, man, and they would always bring that hat.
Looking at this season, what's your opinion of how difficult a 10-game SEC schedule would be? A lot of people have debated whether or not the 8-game schedule should be expanded into 9. Some other Power 5 conferences have done that. this year, because of just the crazy world we're in, it's a 10-game SEC schedule. How difficult is that compared, even though you're only playing 10 versus 12, how much more difficult is that going to be on this year's team?
It's no way to sugarcoat. It's going to be tough, man. If you look at the talent that's in the SEC with different schools around, I actually seen a meme that came across my Instagram or something a few days ago. They were showing like the top 25 schools, and it was like 7 SEC schools in the top 25. And, somebody commented on the bottom of it, like, that's not the top 25. That's Arkansas' schedule this year. And that's basically what it looks like we're going to be playing against all top 25 teams. So it's not going to be a cakewalk at all, man. But I think Coach Pittman's been doing a great job putting a team together. And, I feel like we're definitely going to surprise some people. We may not go out there and just blow people out of the water, but we're definitely going to surprise people.
Yeah. How do you keep your body ready to go with one bye week, a different style of training camp this year? What would you do if you were a player on this year's team to keep your body ready for that schedule?
The older I get in my career, I learned it's always about the recovery. So cold tub, hot tubs, they got the leg compressions that they do now. They have the cryo machines and everything. And so to me, it's all about the recovery. The quicker you can get your body to recover and be ready to play again, the more healthy your body is going to be for you and the more it's going to do for you.
Darren McFadden with us on the Morning Rush. Darren, Trevor Lawrence, Clemson quarterback, is the consensus projected number 1 pick. Taking you back to 2007, Sports Illustrated had you as the number 1 pick. If you still had eligibility this season with coronavirus going on, just being the player that you were, would you still play college football in 2020?
I would say so, man. I'm in it for my teammates and everything. I don't want to just close the door and walk out on those guys right there, man. A lot of guys, they have to come back for the next year and be prepared for a whole nother season. But, being a teammate, being a team player the way that I am, man, I couldn't just close the door on those guys and walk away. That's even to my bowl game, my last year at Arkansas, when we played Missouri, there was a lot of talk about whether I should play or I shouldn't play. And, just like I say, I had talked with my coaches and everything, and they said, man, at the end of the day, you don't want to just walk out on your teammates, and, that wouldn't have been right for me to do that. So I definitely would still be out there with those guys.
Darren, you talk about a sense of togetherness, not only with your teammates, but I know fans all feel the same way about you. Why do you think sports brings us together despite race, political differences, religious differences? Why is sports able to overcome all that?
I think just having so many people coming from so many different backgrounds, whether it's the ethnicity or financial backgrounds or whatever it is, I think when you get so many guys coming together for all to have one common goal, and that's to win football games, it makes it a lot easier to go out there. And then, especially you going through summer camp with those guys and blood, sweat, and tears, and cheering guys on and trying to bring everybody along. It's one of those deals that once you get everything established and everybody can be on that same page and you have the same common goal, and that's to go out there and win football games and try to win a championship for your school or NFL or whatever it may be, a lot of that, everything else gets set to the side. And, people always want to try to get to their goal.
It's the ultimate meritocracy. I mean, it doesn't matter who your dad is, or it doesn't matter who the coach knows. It matters how good a player you are when you get to that level, right? I mean, it doesn't matter the color of your skin or anything else. It's, can you get it done on the field?
And exactly, that's what it's all about right there. It doesn't matter where you come from, who you're related to, or any of that. It's all about going out there and winning football games. And, once you have 50, 60, 70 guys out there with that main common goal, that's hard to beat.
A couple weeks ago, we had your old coach on. Houston Nutt was on with us, and he was telling us the story behind the bats that you had on the field, the bat you had on the end of the field at the LSU game. And he was telling us this story about a security guard trying to take it away from you. And Dean Weber said, hey, I want to hear your side of this story about how that dadgum baseball bat got on that sideline that night in Baton Rouge.
It's funny because leading up into it, everybody just remember the bats from the LSU game, but we actually used those like a game or two before, and we started using them. And I feel like that they may have been threatened by us because we were actually gaining momentum going out there. And I don't know if it was like, I don't even know how to explain it, but we were gaining momentum and winning ball games. And, so when we get there, it's like, you can't come out on the field with that bat. It was like, no, we got to get this bat on this field some kind of way. And so we made it happen.
Man, what a memory that was.
So Dean Weber smuggled the bat in for you.
I'm not going to say if it was Dean or who did it, but the bat ended up on the sideline.
I think the statute of limitations is up on that deal. So, but I'm glad it did happen because it was a great moment in television, if nothing else. It was one of the greatest post-game interviews you've ever seen in sports. So
it was a great one. I don't think you can forget that. If you actually sat there and watched that game, and, you know, nobody gave us a chance in the world to go down there and beat LSU, number one in the country. And then just being able to go down there and beat them, man, I tell people that's one of my all-time favorite games.
Top off the interview with this man with the food question. I know Coach Nutt is down there in Dallas with you, also living down there. Now, he told us that for his money, Hutchins Barbecue in McKinney, Texas was the best barbecue he's had in Dallas. Darren, what is the best barbecue that you've had in the Dallas area?
I would have to agree with him on that right there. We went there and ate lunch 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years, and it's either Hutchins Barbecue or the barbecue that comes from my backyard.
What's your go-to cooking back there, man? Your ribs guy, brisket? What do you make that's the best?
I think I do pretty good with my ribs, but I think I'm more of a chicken-type guy. It's easier for me to cook those and watch my fire and everything. I know with the ribs, sometimes I let them get away from me a little bit, but you know, they still come out with a pretty good smoke taste on them.
Well, smoke the ribs for 3 hours, boil for 2, and then open them back up and put some of that sauce for 1. The 3-2-1 method works every time.
I have to try that for sure. I have to try it for sure.
Darren McFadden, the newest member of the Arkansas Sports Hall of Honor class. Darren, thanks so much for making some time for us this morning, man. It's always great to catch up with you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys having me on. Y'all have a good one.